Welcome to Go Slow to Grow Fast, the podcast where we navigate the toughest growth challenges staring startup founders in the eye and how they can take a step back to leverage mindfulness and best practices to execute a winning strategy. I'm your host, Heath Butler, and today we're talking about artificial intelligence, which is shaping up to be one of the most transformative technologies since we discovered how to leverage the power of the internet. I would like to thank our sponsor, Gunderson Dettmer, the preeminent international law firm with an exclusive focus on the innovation economy. With over 400 attorneys across 12 offices worldwide, Gunderson Dettmer serves pioneering startups throughout their business lifecycle, as well as market-leading venture capital and growth equity investors. For more information about Gunderson, please visit their website at www.gunder.com. I'm joined today by execs from three vertical AI SaaS companies. From SmartAC, we have the head of AI, Matt Robillard. From Collin, aka Digital Wildcatters, we have co-founder and CEO Collin Mclelland. And from Veritec AI, we have CEO and founder Jeremy Gottlieb. In this episode, we'll break down what's real, what's hype, and how AI is shaping the future of startups. Whether you're looking to integrate AI into your business, build an AI-first product to take to market, or just trying to keep up with the rapid advancements, this conversation is one you won't want to miss.
Hey everyone, my name's Collin. I'm the co-founder, CEO of Digital Wildcatters and Collide. Spent my career in the oil and gas industry, and what we built today is the leading community for the energy industry. And off the back of that, built a AI search engine that we're deploying at some of the largest energy companies in the world to help their employees find information quickly across their proprietary data sets.
Hey guys, Matt. I'm the head of AI at SmartAC. I spent my career building advanced technology, so lots of AI going all the way back to 2013 when deep learning was really coming on the scene. We're a customer loyalty management platform for HVAC technicians. So we give visibility into the home with your HVAC system and provide insights for that.
Hey, I'm Jeremy Gottlieb, the co-founder and CEO of Veritec. Prior to founding this company, I was the co-founder and president of ComboCurve, helped scale that business from 0 to 8 figures of revenue in 2.7 years, and helped raise $500 million for an oil and gas company prior to that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. So let's jump in to talk a little bit about how each of your businesses are using AI. And in particular, I'd love to hear how you came upon that there was this AI opportunity and how'd you sort of pursue it.
Yeah, so we actually we started as an evaporative cooling technology, and one of the components of that product was data, and it turns out that that's what everyone really wanted was the data. So we pivoted the company, around that, and as we started kind of extracting insights from the data, we realized that there were patterns and signatures from that, and that was really kind of ripe and fertile territory for AI. And so what we're really looking at is kind of taking areas where we kind of had some capability or some insight into, and then 10xing that by bringing AI into the fold.
So in your case, you guys are using hardware to extract that data, right? Can you tell us a little more about how you're using the hardware and what exactly you're doing?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got 3 sensors that we put inside the home. So you've got the grates, the airflow grates. And so we have these little magnetic sensors that we you stick up there, and then we collect a bunch of data from that. So pressure, temperature, humidity, all that stuff. Can we plug in the thermostat too and use all that together to process in the cloud and kind of extract insights from.
And what problem are you solving for the HVAC technicians?
So HVAC technicians don't have visibility into the home. So, you've got an HVAC shop, they come to your house, they do something right. And then when they leave, they have no idea what's going on in that system. And so what we do is we give them visibility into the home, and we allow them to kind of maintain and nurture that customer relationship. And then from the customer side, they now have kind of predictive capability. And so the idea is that they don't lose comfort. Their AC system doesn't break in the middle of July and they're, 3 days without AC.
So Jeremy, in your case, it's a little different because you didn't have a business you pivoted from, but you created it from scratch, realizing there was an opportunity to dive into automating workflows, right? So tell us a little bit about how you realized the opportunity was there and what you're doing with in the legal space.
Sure. So what we do at Veritec is we do document automation. So we start at the beginning of the pipeline, which is lots of unstructured data coming into email, PDF, faxes, scans, and no one is taking that and getting value out of it. And they spend a lot of time moving that data through their pipeline. So we built out some AI tools to automate data extraction and data movement, from starting with the emails all the way through the case management system in the litigation space. It's very challenging from an onboarding perspective, and is actually the least appealing part of a business that someone would look at. That's why there's very limited competition, but it's a great moat around our business. When we're integrated, it's impossible to rip out, and it's really valuable to the people as well. It saves them. A 50-person firm will save 20 hours a day of time. So we saw that. I'm very deep into looking into workflows that are significant pain points, attacking them with significant automation. And for litigation firms in particular, they're contingency-based. A lot of them are. And so they have a huge ROI associated with handling more cases with faster speed. On top of that, we built two other pieces. So we have a very large enterprise grade system. We spent probably more time building than anybody would have. Most YC commentator would tell you, hey, go build MVP. We saw a lot of other companies fail and overpromise, and they have a very buggy and terrible system coming out of the gate. So we spent a lot more time developing. We have AI medical chronologies, another big pain point. It takes days or weeks to get a point of view on medical documents. We can do that in a matter of a few minutes for thousands of pages at scale. So we built out a very robust architecture and workflow and pipeline. And then the last piece is Document Intelligence Hub. It's taking any litigation document and being able to process it, build out customized workflows and reports. So imagine auto drafting demand letters and pulling out information from police reports, being able to do that automatically. You plop in 10,000 pages, gives you your full medical chronology, pulls out all the key information for the police reports and other key documents and depositions. And so those pipelines are then integrated and passed to different pieces of the downstream system for legal firms. My wife is a former prosecutor, so I had a tremendous amount of experience in the legal space, and working for the government was a great eye-opener for the lack of efficiency. And it's like that. It's very similar to the oil and gas space, the legal space, is that the oil and gas space, it takes time for technology adoption. There's too much risk to go ahead and just adopt everything at one time. So you can have a tremendous amount and pile of capital, but that doesn't mean throwing dollars at sales and marketing is going to increase sales adoption. So it gives us a great opportunity to come in and compete with some of the larger competitors. It's very funny, the amount of advancement from a LLM model perspective and the power of just building from a workflow perspective. We have implemented different AI tools internally. All of our developers are mandated to use AI. If they don't, they're not part of our team. And it gives us the capability to have one developer that's as good as 10 developers at once.
From a philosophical perspective, the way you're building the business, obviously AI is the product, but it sounds like you're leveraging it internally as well.
100%.
So how are you guys doing that, Collin and Matt?
Yeah, I'll opine real quick. Matt's the most technical out of all of us by a long shot up here, so he can talk more about it. But I'm the same way, Jeremy. I have no interest in hiring devs that aren't using AI in their workflow, and we've seen it on, the most important part of retrieval augmented generation and how we're using it, and Jeremy's using it, is in the data pipelines and in the data architecture. And it's just crazy. We don't have teams and teams of data engineers. We're using AI in these workflows as well. And to Jeremy's point is you can just ship so quickly. And so the way that we think about it is we're not only AI first in the product that we're delivering, but we're AI first in how we're building that product as well. And one of our 3 core values is do more with less, and AI really enables us to do that. And now, obviously, you still need deep technical expertise to understand these systems and how to build software that scales. But it's just a tool that allows you to increase throughput.
Jeremy mentioned if the developer's not 10x in their productivity, they're out. Like, what's your perspective there? What are you guys doing at SmartAC in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of areas with AI where there's not quite product market fit, or where there's kind of like some cool demos, but code development is one where there is real product market fit, and we're starting to see, even in the last year, it's been incredible how capable it is. If you look at Sonnet that got released, and then some of the newer models, I kind of call it vibe coding. So you can use Cursor in these models and just speak in natural language, which will be the next programming language. And when it makes a mistake, I can just plug that error back in, and just kind of as an exercise, it's incredible what you can develop just kind of speaking in natural language. A year ago, I don't think that was the case. I think it would hamstring really good developers, and I think it's getting to the point now where it's not the case, and it is slowing you down. And my bet would be by the end of the year, if you're still writing code by hand, you're going to be very, very outpaced.
Well, that's what my thing was. Is so many longtime senior engineers were just so resistant to it, and it reminded me of the oil field. So back in 2010, they started putting computers on drilling rigs called Pason, and I remember all the old head drillers like, I'm not learning how to use that damn computer. And guess what? They didn't last very long. And you had kids like me coming up that were just digitally native that knew how to use these tools really easily. But what I've told everyone, whether it's Cursor or whatever product it is like, this is the worst that it's going to be. It only gets better from here. And ththese things are increasing exponentially as well. So to your point, if you looked at it a year ago, I mean, it's just completely different, and it'll be completely different a year from now.
So given all of the hype around OpenAI's release of Strawberry earlier or last year, and then DeepSeek hype in the last couple of weeks, how are you guys managing the change internally and continuing to deliver customer value, right? Like how are you managing those two things in real time?
Y'all got something? I can start off with something. All right. So the DeepSeek one is interesting because this is really validating what I've deeply believed the last 2 years. And that belief was that the majority of AI is commoditized and it's a race to the bottom. And so everyone is investing heavily in foundational models and in compute. And my idea was, hey, there's only going to be a few big tech companies that have foundational models. And then you saw Zuckerberg really just kind of flex and make open source. And then DeepSeek has come out, and DeepSeek's just amazing. And Sam Altman there's a good quote from a talk that he gave on, and he said there's 2 buckets of startups in AI. And 95% of startups fit in one bucket, and they're typically GPT wrapper type of companies. And this is where you get the meme where OpenAI releases a new model, and it's like, oh, OpenAI killed my startup. He said there's another second bucket where 5% of the startups are, and when a new model gets released, it makes their product better. He's like, you want to be in that 5%, where as the technology progresses, it makes your offering and your product better. And I think that, there's a lot of nuance to this. There's, has anyone used the tool Granola for note-taking? It's amazing. And there's a million note takers out there that are trying to be AI note takers, but Granola has just mastered the product, and a lot of people will just call that a GPT wrapper. And so there's a ton of opportunity out there really we could look at the entire internet as, an AWS wrapper, or like you could really extrapolate this. But I think that you want to build products where as the technology evolves, you'll be able to hot swap models in and use it to your benefit to increase the value of your product.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the cost curve is coming down so dramatically, and for companies like ours, it's just incredibly beneficial. I'm a big believer in vertically based software. Obviously, with Combo Curve, that the oil and gas space was a great area, and the litigation space is just a little bit larger than the oil and gas space, and exciting. But you can get really deep in the workflows. And these large horizontal companies are not going to focus on TAMs that are so small relative to what they're attacking. And so you have a mode on getting really, really deep and specialized within these workflows that make you very difficult. I'm a big believer in not being ripped out. I don't want somebody to come in and be able to take me out really, really easily. I want to have a lot of value, and I want to be really deeply integrated to those workflows. So I have a large process around those integrations. But as these models evolve, 100%, like Collin said, it's just making us better from a chronology perspective, getting more information out. And as we kind of think about, the new models that we're using and how we use them from both a development perspective, My goal is to be able to build a $100 million company, ARR company with 20 people, 25 people. There is zero reason that I need to have a monstrous company when I can build an AI agent for DevOps, when I can have an AI agent that's working 24/7 a day, building new software code, and have this is the product vision, and I have a product AI agent go execute on this with the team of AI agent developers. Like, this is the long run.
No, look,
vision.
I just had a board meeting last week with one of our companies, and they're doing some similar things. And I told them to put all of the agents on their org chart.
Start treating them like real people.
Absolutely.
I think that point's so important. I have the same belief. It's like, hey, you should be able to build multi-billion-dollar platforms with less than 100 people. And, whether that number's 20 or 75, it doesn't matter, but it's less than 100. And I think that really allows you to focus on talent density in your companies. The people that you're bringing on, you can go get the best talent. You can comp them really well, and then you can expand bandwidth and throughput through the use of AI.
So Collin, you said something earlier about the Sam Altman's comment about the 95%, and you want to be in the 5% where you're creating real value or deep value, I should say. What are you guys' thoughts on what's true about the business when you're in the 5%? So Jeremy, you mentioned vertical AI. You talked a little bit about switching costs in terms of being deeply embedded. What are other things you think that's good for the based on you guys' experience, is good for the audience to know about what's in that 5%? What does it look like?
Don't want to give away all the secrets, but really, I think of some of the stuff around data sets. So you have to have unique go-to-market and a unique data set. I think at least one of those two to ring true in order to have a really hyper successful company. And obviously collecting unique data sets, as we think about that and what we're getting, if you're unable to take advantage of the internal data set and the litigation firms, for instance, so one company may have gone through 10,000 cases, but they don't even have an analytics tool on top of that to be able to automate the settlement value that they can use to take on more cases and to make their process more efficient. So just being able to think through some of those unique data sets that you can have, unique go-to-market, I think also really helps separate those things.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I think there's two things that stand out. To Jeremy's point, I think data is really the only moat that you have. And I think one interesting way to think about this is if you look at DeepSeek, they released everything but the data. So the weights are open, the algorithmic advancements are open, the research is open, right? Everything but the data. So that's really the only moat that you have in AI. And I think the second thing is, as the marginal cost of intelligence goes down to zero, you're left with that question: is, well, where's the value going to accrue? And I think it's going to accrue at the application layer, right? So, like take legal tech, for example. There's, companies are not buying technology; they're buying tools, right? So there's a reason that you can't go into a law firm and sell them an API key, right? So, there's a lot of things that matter outside of that thin wrapper, and so those 5% of companies are actually building solid, defensible products. And yes, AI is kind of at the core of that, but there's things like client privilege and security and versioning and these whole host of other things that that actually matter and will continue to matter.
Yeah, I think the common theme between all three of us is data is the biggest moat. And, we have a deep belief that we're building the most robust energy repository, and that's something that Meta, Google, OpenAI won't have access to. And so that's something that we focus a lot on. The other moats or competitive advantages I think of are, to Jeremy's point, domain expertise, going deep into a vertical. There's other companies out there. Jeremy's dealing with this a lot. There's some legal tech companies out there that have raised a lot of money, and this doesn't always help you. I bet Jeremy will end up running circles around a lot of these companies. There's other companies out there that are doing enterprise RAG, and like you'll go to their website and they have energy listed as one of their verticals. One, they don't have any energy clients. It's BS in the first place. And then they're laying off 40% of their employees in December after raising $140 million, and so Part of the problem is they don't have the domain expertise. I'm a big believer in network effects. If anyone's ever read Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, it kind of gives you a checklist of what is a monopolistic platform, and network effects is a big one of those. I bet you guys actually have some network effects and just kind of distribution through AC units. But, and then for us, Jeremy said he always thinks about preventing him being ripped out. That's what I love about oil and gas is it's incredibly hard to get into these companies, but once you do, you're in for 20 or 30 years. So incredibly sticky moat. And then, when you're building a startup, you really have two camps. You have team product and team distribution, and I'm heavily biased to team distribution. So that's how we built our companies. We built this huge network and community, and now we get to walk into all these companies, and then we're friends with them, and can sell them AI. And so you got to look at these things. What are your competitive advantages? Everyone always brings up, I'm sure you guys get this all the time, is, well, why won't Microsoft do this? All the energy companies are Microsoft Azure shops. Why won't they use Copilot? And they can't. These big tech companies can't move down into these niche applications. And so that's really where that domain expertise becomes super valuable. And I don't know how it is for legal, but oil and gas, they really appreciate when you walk in and you're like, okay, look, you can tell it how to do a defit on a SWD well. And most people don't even know what that is. Microsoft doesn't know what that is. And so they just appreciate when you speak their language. So I think that those are kind of the main components I look at, what makes a defensible platform.
Yeah, one of the other ones we thought was really interesting, Mercury as a software investor, we typically never do anything associated with hardware. In the case of SmartAC, is a little bit different because the hardware is just simply a sensor that's collecting the proprietary data. So and they're not selling the hardware, they're giving it away and they're wrapping it into the product. So in their case, hardware applies and it becomes the unique source of the data, right? And that was really unique. They're putting the hardware as
Can we talk about that a little bit? I hate any hate on hardware. I love hardware, but I think what's really cool is that we're hitting this point of singularity where software, hardware, and energy are coming to a point. And you look at just large language models, you obviously have a ton of hardware in the GPUs and in the compute. You have the software application layer. And then for every query that you're running, there's a cost associated with that query. And what is that? It's a direct input of the energy costs going into it. And so I just think that it's a really cool time, and especially with distributed energy systems. And obviously HVAC plays a huge part in that. But I think that's actually, if you want to look for defensible businesses to build, you should be looking at hardware because they are hard to build, but there's so much opportunity there. And AI is just enabling some really cool things on the hardware side.
In some cases, it's unfair because they had a little bit of an advantage with the old business. And so if you are a startup trying to start from scratch and do what they did, might not totally be fair, but to your point, if you have the deep domain expertise and you have the capability to do it, that's something that as a founder you can bring to the table on your own and get it started. Because we're not going to invest in speculative hardware. When we invested in a business, the hardware was working already and it was going well. But that's one of the great sources that I think, as you said, the hardware and software in some cases are starting to overlap. But the business model has got to work as well, right? And in your case, it works pretty well.
Yeah, I think that to your point, Heath, I mean, the hardware is the thing that, really gave us that data set, and everything that we're doing right now, not only are we the only ones that can do it, there's nobody else that has this data set in the world, right? But it's it is a massive moat. It's the thing that we can stand on, right? So all the models that we're developing and that we're training are downstream of that data.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we think is really important, and it applies in your businesses, and all of you have touched on it a little bit, but it's sort of like, how do you tap into an exclusive distribution channel, right? And because when you can do that, what we believe is coming is that most, especially in the mid-market and as you go downstream, the buyers won't be sophisticated enough to evaluate all the options. So they are going to stick with their current incumbents. So if you latch on and distribute through those incumbents, you're likely to win more business than if you were trying to completely disintermediate some of the incumbents that may be in-house. So distribution channels are going to be extremely important. So, and each of you kind of talked about how you're doing that in your own way. So I think that's a thing that adds to the moat and increases switching costs as well. So hey guys, you guys all are looking to build $100 million businesses with like 5 employees, right? So what resources are required? So when you think about the key resources in your business, how are you thinking about that, and how has that changed from how you may have thought about it when you were building a business, 2, 5, or any of your previous experiences?
Yeah, a couple things. Me and Matt and Jeremy were talking about this earlier, but um, if you're looking at hiring, machine learning engineers, for example, I think that there's a spectrum of machine learning engineers, and you have some people that are at the far end of the spectrum that are very technical, deep research, PhDs. They're at OpenAI, Anthropic. I don't think that you need these types of people for most AI companies out there. I think that you really want people that are at the application layer. And so, SmartAC is bringing over Matt because Matt's wicked smart. He's also a grappler. He's a wrestler. He can kick your ass too, so don't mess with him. Really having smart technical people in there that understand not only building the technology, but understanding the commercial implications of that as well. Some people, OpenAI actually has this problem. They've got an internal struggle between the research and the commercialization of the business. You have a lot of PhD researchers there that just want to build AGI, and they just want to build the technology, and they don't think about, oh, hey, we actually have to make money at some point for this to be sustainable. And so I think it's really important to get smart technical people that understand the actual the business as well. And for me, yes, what we need in terms of resources and people, I'm really just I'm focused on finding the smartest engineers. And now I don't think that I need a team of 50 engineers anymore. I think I need a team of maybe 10. And enabling them with AI will allow them to do the work of 100 engineers.
No, that's awesome. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I think there's I always kind of tackle this question by asking what you're trying to do. And so if you're trying to push the frontier of application, then you want folks that are research based, right? You want somebody who's got a deep background. And so if you don't know what backpropagation is or gradient descent, right? You don't have the fundamentals to kind of tackle those really bespoke problems. And so a lot of what we're doing at SmartAC are very unique. We're actually training models. And so of course we plug in APIs here and there, but we're also, spending capital and GPUs, et cetera, and really, we're training models, neural networks. And so there's another class too, where, if you're trying to build an application around, AI that exists and technology exists, you want strong engineers. You kind of, call them LLM engineers or any, flavor of it. But, to Collin's point, you want folks who aren't going to be, lost in the weeds or in the math. And you want folks who are good at data wrangling and building pipelines and a lot of that kind of infrastructure that you really need to make RAGs and these things work.
So I conceptually think about just the team in a few different ways. So number one is the technology side, and fully agree commercially, commercial mindset for everything we do, and having good pushback on that is critically important. But for us as well, we don't need the cutting edge research. We're trying to simplify a bunch of very complex tasks and leverage a lot of technology to do that in the most efficient manner possible. But overall, we're able to experiment quite nicely with different AI tools. My head of growth, who just joined us a month ago, he's messing around with different AI tools that will take him and 10x or 20x his capabilities, right? We're looking at those tools to give us an advantage because this gives us an ability to compete with companies that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we're trying to find out how we can how we can really go compete head to head with them. I am more confident than ever right now that with our current small team of resources of call it 12, 13, 14 people, I can compete with a 500 person company. And I am fully confident of that because if we're more creative, we figure out the tools to use, we figure out the different ways to leverage the AI tools that are available, or even just develop them some of it internally for some of the pain points we're trying to solve for. We can compete against the largest sales teams. We can compete against the largest customer success teams. It's all about being smart and leveraging, having maybe one customer success person, but I have a bunch of AI agents that are customer success agents that can do custom onboardings for each of our clients, right? having the same type of experience without the same number of people. And so we're thinking about that in a much different way, complete across the organization, from marketing, customer success, sales, technology, operations. We're trying to integrate that in our day-to-day DNA. And if we do a great job of it, that's how we're able to scale and really compete with much less capital.
No, that's awesome. You got another comment?
I was just going to say, those constraints are just kind of natural for startups, and that's why startups are so innovative, because you're like, hey, how can we compete with a 500-person company? And AI has just unlocked this wave of, new possibilities. That's insane. And so, I was going to ask these guys real quick, like, how are y'all personally using AI in your business as you guys run teams?
It was very funny. If anybody wants to build this tool, it was very annoying. 1099s. I'm trying to generate the 1099s, and I actually leveraged our tool I threw in the W-9s because there was no company that was using AI to build out 1099s automatically. I have to put it in the CSV file. And so I just stuck it in my system. I said, here are all my W-9s. Push it to the CSV that I need so I can get it done. And they had social security numbers in there. So we use our HIPAA compliant software to go do it. Do not put social security numbers in ChatGPT. And so
good advice.
So from the basic stuff, like just having I use it from accounting. I have my CPA license and CFA charter, so I still do our books every single week. I do the QuickBooks. So
it's the most nerdy. Who wants to run a startup and do their own accounting?
Yeah. Exactly. You got to do. So I'm using it from QuickBooks. QuickBooks AI is quite challenging, and one of our advisors works that into it. So I'm giving him a lot of grief about how bad their AI is to even get us the vendors properly. It was so inaccurate. But I try to use it pretty much every day. I use obviously ChatGPT. I'm using different types of AI for building out presentations as first draft automatically. It's embedded in every.
No, sounds like you are very active. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I definitely use like ChatGPT in here and there. I think there's things that it definitely excels at. But man, I live in Cursor quite a bit, and it's just been incredible to watch. I mean, a year ago I was like, this is not good code, right? Like, yes, you can make little fun demo apps, and now I'm writing multiple. 3-4 times the amount of code I would have written a day before.
Collin?
Yeah, so I'm on this kick where I never want to type on a keyboard again, so I'm all about voice to text. So had early beta access to GPT voice like a year and a half ago, and I started going on these 5-mile walks, and I'd just sit there and I'd talk to the bot, and it would talk back and forth to me. And I do things like, hey, I'm going to dump all my ideas. I want you to record it, and then I want you to turn that into a memo for my employees. And so I've taken that a step further. Last month, I bought a Tesla so I could have full self-driving. So now I have my AI car drive me around while I'm talking to the AI bot, generating memos, and my productivity is just through the roof.
Yeah, you're pretty advanced. So given that, what's the best lessons you guys have learned? And then I'm gonna open up the floor for from questions from the audience.
I think my best lesson that I've learned just overall in building a company is really focusing on talent density, having fewer people that have higher output, and just learn that naturally through building teams. And that's the thing that I'll always focus on is culture and having smart people around.
Yeah, so mine's AI focused. Never bet against deep learning. So from 2019 to 2023, we went from ChatGPT 2 to ChatGPT 4. So we went from like preschooler level to smart college student in 4 years. And you think about that, and it's incredible.
Jeremy?
Two things that I hear, and both personally I've learned, is you build around pain, always around pain, and then accountability, extreme, significant accountability within the organization.
That's really good. I think the theme there sounds like it's all about talent, right? Having the right people on your team to help you either solve the pain or and making sure they're people that know how to be accountable. So thank you guys for that. We have any questions in the audience? So let me summarize really quick. Sounds like how do you hire great talent, right? And how do you market your unique model, LLM model, if you data set, for that you've built that's in a unique TAM?
Yeah, I'll take the first question on attracting talent. I'm really good at convincing very smart people to do stupid things with me. And so when I look at attracting talent, I mean, everything in life to me is a sales process. It doesn't matter whether I'm selling AI, if I'm raising capital, if I'm hiring talent. Everything is a sales process to me. And yesterday we brought in a VP of engineering from a really large tech startup that we're interviewing. And within 1 hour, he came up to me and he's like, this culture is something special. And I think that you get people sold on an idea and on a vision. Actually, me and Jeremy were talking about this. Like all sales is like 80% of it's just being high energy and excited about what you're working on. Typically, if you're excited what you're working on and you're mission driven, it's going to naturally attract other people. And then I found that really smart people want to work on hard problems as well. And they want to be surrounded by other people that are working on hard problems. And so these things just compound. It's like that guy yesterday telling me that our culture is special. He got there and got to hang around a lot of smart people and he was just energized by it. And so, when you're early stage, it's you as a founder that has to bring that energy. And then you start seeing your team carrying it and it just compounds over time.
Matt, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think smart people, ambitious people like being around other smart and ambitious people. And so I think that's the best thing that you do is every hire is absolutely existential, especially under 10 people, right? So it's like every person that you bring to the table has to, raise the average in the room. And smart people love that. Like smart people get excited by that and encouraged. And those are the kind of people that you want to attract.
Jeremy?
I agree with that. I don't think I'm going to add
it's okay.
anything too much.
I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of respond.
I hire people that are much smarter than me. I want to be the dumbest one in the room.
Hey, that's a good strategy too. I think the second question was about how you market the new product. And I'll take that one. I think the key thing that we always say is you got to find the early adopters, people that really have the problem and are willing to give you an opportunity to help them fix the problem they have. Be glad for these guys to tell you, after the session, how they got their first customers, right? But I think it's all about finding those early adopters, and that's usually about the network effect of having a network and being a domain expert in that network and having some relationships where you could go talk to 20 or 30 people and you've got relationships with, and they have the problem, and they're willing to let you give you an opportunity to solve it. I guarantee you, that's going to be their answers, right? Is that they were in the space, they had the relationships, and those early adopters trusted them personally, and they were able to use their equity, their personal equity, to get those early adopters to allow them to help them solve that problem. Next question. He's basically asking, what advice would you give to founders who want to build an AI first company? What advice would we give them?
Yeah, because it sounded like you're saying that you're evaluating. There's a ton of AI startups out there, and companies are evaluating a lot of AI companies. Is that right? So how do you stand out among those?
Yeah. What are the key strategies when you're building an AI company to be AI first?
Yeah, I think, if you're an AI native company, you have the wonderful opportunity of thinking from first principles. So I think really going down to like what that experience could be, you're not, hindered or hobbled by, trying to plug it into existing workflows or an interface that people are already familiar with. And so I think, just really kind of leaning into that of, what could this be? And starting from a blank page.
Yeah, I'd echo that. In oil and gas, a lot of people in here may be in energy. We have a ton of legacy software in the industry, and a lot of these legacy software providers are looking at, how can they interject AI into their product. But, they're really hamstrung and have the burden of they have a core product that they've built and sold for 10 or 20 years. And so to Matt's point here is that you really have the opportunity to reimagine how things operate and how they work. And I actually have a deep belief that AI will eat a lot of legacy software in different industries, not just energy, but all industries. And it allows you to totally reimagine how data workflows work. I know Jeremy's doing some stuff. I won't say everything that he's doing. I don't know if he wants to disclose it, but they have the opportunity to where, they could displace some legacy software that's out there in terms of data capture and just reimagine that from the ground up.
I think the number one thing, though, when you're just thinking about the ideation phase and strategy, solve one very valuable problem for one very specific customer. Do that very well, and then expand from there. If you can't serve one customer really well that loves you, that will sing your praises, you're not building any big business at all.
Yeah, can I add one more thing to that real quick? Startups are founder-led sales too. So I'm sure you guys have seen this, but your product doesn't have to be 100% to get people to buy in on the vision. They're buying in on you as the founder and the vision of the product. And so, for us with Collide, we're very fortunate that we have some amazing design partners that understand, hey, the technology may not be exactly where we want it to be, but we understand the vision and we're going to work with you to get it there. And so that's something that's really important, is you have to sell people on yourself and the vision. And that's how you compete with all the other companies that are out there.
Yeah, to your earlier question. That part's key. Yeah. Hey, we'll take one more question, and then we're going to get the legal guys up here and see what they have to say about all this. Let me take a stab at it. I'll give these guys an opportunity. So we've been talking a lot about this inside our firm, and we really believe that your large, definitely Fortune 100, if not Fortune 1000, they're going to build their own foundational models. Right, you just saw my partner Aziz is up in the stands here. He just put something in our Slack channel this morning that Netflix has, made moves to hire senior talent to build their own foundational model. Right. So to your point about the capital they have, in some cases, they may seek some outside expertise that they may hire an Accenture or, a PwC or something to help them do it. But a lot of them are going to build their own. And it's going to be in some of the niche spaces where it doesn't make sense for them. And then downstream, where you're going to see a lot of people standardize on a vendor like Collide for certain things, because the depth and breadth of the community is going to be more valuable than what they can do alone, right? So they're going to be trying to balance how they can leverage their own capital with the benefits of the community in some cases. And I think what Collin is doing with Collide is a great example of that. There's going to be some firms that choose not to do certain pieces of it because it's going to be better to partner with them to do it.
I have a pretty strong opinion about this in general.
I did too. I'll let you go first.
At Combo Curve, we signed some of the largest oil and gas companies, the largest oil and gas company in the United States. And they had been building internally for a long time, but we have the expertise. We do this day in, day out, nonstop. We speak to hundreds and hundreds of companies. We integrate the best possible solution in the best possible software. You only have one company, one point of view, and one way of doing things. And so when you have companies that do try to build software, and of course they'll try, and there's some things that are great use cases to build internally, but enterprise grade software with complex workflows that touch a lot of the business is generally more budget friendly. Think about how much they're spending internally on G&A to run a sophisticated software, whereas you have Collin and his team who are a bunch of superstars and much leaner that can deliver significant ROI to that company, right? So I'm a big believer in companies focusing on their core capability and competency in the oil and gas space, which is extracting oil and gas in the most efficient way possible with the best profit margin that you can possibly do in the safest manner possible. So in general, I've seen large law firms that said, hey, we're building technology. And guess what? We're talking to a 2,500 person firm on our medical chronology side because they don't have that done. And that's all, we're focused heavily on that piece of it. So there's always opportunity, and sure, they're going to potentially build and do that. But in general, it's a huge waste of capital, and they end up scrapping that because there's not enough internal budget, and the complexity of managing it and maintaining software is significant.
I'm going to simplify that a little bit. Big corporations just can't build anything. So it's really what it boils down to. And if you look at some of our clients, I'll give you a couple examples. There's one really large OFS company that we deployed in. They have 18 business units, thousands of employees worldwide. And they have an internal IT and data science team that their customers are these 18 business units. And we've come in there and partnered up with them and made them look like rock stars because they're being able to deploy valuable AI solutions that deliver value on day one. And they just weren't capable of building these things internally. And so that's important. Actually at one of our other customers, they're already to the point where they want to hire someone internally to be a Collide AI manager. And so that's how they see it is, hey, we'd rather leverage the AI experts and then we can build whatever we need in terms of, process and implementation and things of that nature. But really what it just boils down to is these companies can't build. And it actually it kills me sometimes. I'm just painfully slow. And if anyone's in here and worked in oil and gas, you know how painfully slow it can be sometimes. So, but also coming back to the data point is DeepSeek comes out, but it's just a large language model. You still need data sets. And it's like in RAG, you just hot swap DeepSeek into RAG and now you have a better model. So.
No, guys, this has been great. I hope you guys got some value out of it. This episode is part of Software Day at the ION series, a collaborative initiative between the ION and Mercury. Software Day is a program designed to empower software startups with experience, mentorship, actionable advice, and leverageable networking opportunities within Houston's innovation ecosystem. That's a wrap for today's episode of Go Slow to Grow Fast. Big thanks to our sponsor, Gunderson Detmer, the #1 ranked VC law firm globally for the 10th year in a row. If you enjoyed the conversation, please subscribe to the podcast and be sure to like and share wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review. Until the next time, keep leveraging mindfulness in your journey to go slow to grow fast.